Hello, my dear crystal lovers, and welcome to a new Vlogcast. If this is your first time here, let me introduce myself. My name is AM, and I have a wonderful small business named AVIUVI, where I sell the most amazing and rare and sustainably sourced crystals. What I had planned for today was not a Vlogcast, but I finally caught the bug that's been going around lately. And I honestly didn't feel like sitting in front of the camera today. But once in a while I like to make these vlogcasts where I get to talk with you about some of the more convoluted aspects of the human life experience here on planet Earth, and I am happy that you enjoy them too. By the way, I am Danish, I live in Copenhagen, so if you hear an accent or I mispronounce words, that is because English is my second language. Today is all about the astrological new year, Spring Equinox. The equinoxes are the 2 days a year that marks when the center of the sun is directly above Earth's equator. On the days of the equinoxes, daytime and nighttime are of approximately equal duration. So here in Denmark we call it forårsjævndøgn and efterårsjævndøgn, roughly translated to spring even day and autumn even day. Like the solstices, the equinoxes were significant celebratory days for the people who lived here throughout time. But where the solstices represent the extremes, the equinoxes represent equilibrium. These are days of great balance and deep connection with our beautiful Earth. The spring equinox is the perfect time to calibrate into well-being. Well, any time is really a good time for that, but the special thing about this equinox is here in the Northern Hemisphere, all of nature agrees with you. The momentum of growth and prosperity is bigger now than it is at any time of the year. I often use the analogy of nature to explain how and why the seasons feel so differently. But another way is to think of it like a big train leaving the train station on spring equinox. It's accelerating in spring, having momentum in summer, decelerating in autumn, and back at the station in winter. All through spring it's gaining momentum and gaining momentum. And here is the fun part, you get to decide what it's going to feel like inside of that train. Winter are found to be a great time for releasing any unnecessary struggles and difficulties that I don't want to bring along anymore. That way I'm making sure that I am ready to go when the train leaves the station. Choosing the path of least resistance in this case is not the same as not making an effort. However, when you choose to make an effort, you do it where you feel the best possible flow of energy and momentum within you and within your personal boundaries. Now is the perfect time to consider which crystals you want to work with in the coming astrological year. I have a big collection of crystals to choose from. But the one crystal that I'm mainly going to work with this year is a big raw clear quartz that I got for myself recently. And I will show you in the next video what it looks like. Clear quartz has always been my favorite crystal. For me it inspires clarity of mind, deepens meditation, it amplifies the energy, and it invites a whole lot of healing. The important thing when choosing a crystal to work with consistently for a season or a year is to make sure that it matches your intentions. Finding the right crystal for you is similar to any practice of wellness in the way that it takes a lot of patience, attention, and emotional awareness. A great way to choose a crystal is to go for what awakens positive emotions for you. For me, that is actually the true healing property of crystals, and it's also what I want to provide through the shop. When selecting a new crystal, I always encourage you to follow your first impression and let yourself be drawn to it. That way the crystal chooses you instead of the other way around. You instinctively know at first glance which one is right for you, and you may even find yourself being interested in a crystal that you've never considered before. If you find a crystal that you don't want to let go of, or that you can't stop looking at, trust that feeling. Take your time to really tap into the feeling and the emotions of what it is that you want to bring into your life at this point. Daydream and visualize and experience what it is that you want as if it has already come into reality. Whatever crystal you feel expresses that intention will be the one that's best suited for you. This is also a great time to get a good meditation routine going for you. I heard an interview in a podcast recently where a scientist very enthusiastically told how science had proven that meditation was beneficial to humans. To which the interviewer informed him that this wasn't exactly breaking news in the quote-unquote real world. People have known this for thousands of years all over the globe. It's wonderful that science is catching up, but that doesn't make the benefits of meditation more or less real. And for me, this is very much true when it comes to crystals as well. I love geology and I talk about it all the time here on the channel. But geology is not all that there is to crystals. In the same way with biology, if you walk through the forest naming all of the different variants of plants and animal life, you would completely miss the essence of the forest. So I want to share with you the way that I do it because I'm very restless in nature and impatient in nature. But I found a few tricks that work for me. So I meditate with a crystal in my hands for 15 minutes, 5 days a week. And I found that if I do it while taking an Epsom salt foot bath, meanwhile, it is much easier for me or for someone like me to stay focused. I think it's the combination of the warmth and the tactility and the fact that I can't just get up and leave if I get an impulse to do that. So I think that's what makes it work. Another very powerful mind hack that I want to share with you is to write a gratitude journal. This is the first thing that I do every morning, and it is one of the most impactful rituals that I have. I have a nice notebook and a great pen too, so that all makes it a lot more enjoyable. And I write down 10 things that I am grateful for that morning. It could be my husband, my son, my parents, my friends, our neighbors, the sunset, morning coffee, something that happened the day before, my health, nice food. So just normal, regular, everyday things. What it does for me is 2 things. It immediately boosts my mood and sets the tone for the entire day. And secondly, it sends me on a bit of a treasure hunt to find all of the nice things that I'm grateful for that day. If you haven't tried this yet, Spring Equinox is such a good time to start. But I'm gonna shift gear now and share with you some of my thoughts about this coming year. As you may know, my formal background is in design and my main expertise is in trends, understanding why we collectively move in currents and why we choose differently from one generation to the next is a really big interest of mine. Times are definitely shifting these years, and the waves and challenges and opportunities that are given to us are happening more and more rapidly, even though looking from the outside these last 3 years were the most insane years I've ever experienced. It really was a catalyst for a lot of individuals to make some big fundamental decisions for themselves on their journey here on planet Earth. On a practical level, many of us were called to take more charge of our lives, to be more independent in our work, create more flexibility in our everyday life, learn how to take care of ourselves by growing food and discovering the abundance of nature, gathering in communities and finding tribes, and learning various healing modalities. In 2022, money and resources were the hot topics. Some of the most popular trends on social media were the fascination with old money style and etiquette training, tips on how to act like a proper lady or gentleman, how to signal wealth and sophistication without looking flashy, what people to surround yourself with to quote-unquote level up, how to throw elegant dinner parties. So a return to old values and traditions and legacy. This is an interesting trend because it is definitely all about being traditional, but not necessarily about being conservative. And I can't remember a time where these themes were ever on trend in my lifetime before. Another current trend that I haven't ever seen before is the interest in classic countryside life. Not necessarily nature, but the classic country lifestyle, I guess. And I think we are still collectively gravitating towards more traditional and classic lifestyle in the next 6 months. But then we are gonna get completely past it. This is not one that's gonna stick around. Simultaneously, on a macro level, some of the biggest themes were about money and resources too. Primarily shortage of resources like gas and food. We had inflation and the modern colonialism in the form of billionaires and investment funds buying up massive amounts of land all over the world. Again, I will give this trend about 6 months until it runs out. But then, of course, there's a war in Ukraine, and warfare is not something that I believe we have seen the last of. I think the collective idealistic bubbles are gonna burst over the next couple of years because there are more personal things that needs to come first for people. This could come across as less niceness and a breakdown of the collective systems that doesn't serve individual freedom. I think we're gonna see a bigger need for independence and personal power, and that can come across in so many different ways. For example, being willing to fight for what you know is right, and less willingness to compromise. It could also be a quote-unquote me first kind of attitude, for better or for worse. If the idea of me first rubs you the wrong way, another way of seeing it could be through the eyes of the big me. The me that is including my higher self, or the big me including my guides, or me and the universe. So however you want to phrase that. It's also a return to self-confidence, entrepreneurship, and not giving up on what you want. Bravery and taking risks or taking charge. And this new age spirituality that we're in at the moment, it can of course be considered a mainstream trend, and it is, and something that we collectively feel drawn to. It was all catapulted into our lives because it was necessary in order to deal with life in recent years. However, I think it's going to stick. I think it's going to be integrated into our journey going forward. So no matter if it's crystals or astrology or transcendental meditation, the point is that there's an opening for the mainstream to tap into a part of existence that was previously broadly not available. So it's an opportunity for developing emotional and spiritual maturity. How I see it out in real life is that more and more, and especially the youth, have a certain standard for what they expect. I don't know if you guys noticed it, but they are completely different from, people in their 20s right now are so different from what I was like in my 20s. They're just not on board with the status quo, and they're just not willing to participate. So that's the landscape that I believe this train is gonna take us through. Obviously, there are lots of other trends and currents that I see coming up in the horizon, like AI, anti-consumption, escapism, and an interesting one that's beauty as a form of activism. I think that's a really interesting one. But maybe I'll go more into that in a later video if you are interested. So for the sake of this vlogcast not being too long, I will stop here. And if I feel better in a couple of days, I will post a video on Sunday too. So thank you so much for listening to this vlogcast, and if you enjoyed it and you would like more of this type of content, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. It helps me to know what you guys want me to talk about, and it also helps others to find this content if that is what they're looking for. I want to wish you the most amazing day with so much love to you and to yours.